Now, have you ever asked yourself, if you could live life over again, would you do it? Would you go through all of this again? I have to tell you, I would have to think long and hard about going through my high school years again. Remember, I was the shortest kid in my class. So when we ask ourselves that question and consider the answer, we tend to assume that we get to live the same life over again, or something very similar. Maybe a few circumstances would be different, but by and large, it would be kind of what we have today, when the odds against that are actually quite high. Just the chances of being born in Canada, as I was, are about 1 in 400. So think about that for a second. There are about 400 people in this room tonight. If all of us were to be born again tomorrow, only one of us, and I think it's that guy right over there, would be born in Canada. What if I'd been born in China or in Africa like my ancestors or like so many millions of other people? What if some of the other circumstances of my birth had been different? I have a mixed ethnic background, but I was born with a white appearance and a British last name. What if that hadn't been the case? What if I had a Chinese last name? What if I had a Chinese appearance? Then chances are I probably wouldn't have ended up being a talk show host or an entrepreneur. It's not impossible, but at the time I was born, it would have made it very unlikely.
Well, I think Bradley Wong has done all right for himself. A successful actor on a hit TV show for years now. As far as I can tell, he's 58 years old. So I think he might even be older than you. And he definitely has a Chinese last name. In fact, as I recall, he has a little bit of a Chinese accent even. So I think you'd do all right if you had a Chinese last name. And he looks just a little Chinese, just a little bit. But, don't want to take away your white male privilege from you.
Luck is much more than hard work, what has made a big difference in my life. It's really what has put me over the top in both my Boston qualifying marathon and in life. This is something that Warren Buffett calls the ovarian lottery. I won the lottery the day that I was born. I didn't get handed a check for $1 million, but I was given an opportunity that was worth at least that much. Now, in a marathon, everybody starts at the same time. When the gun goes off, we all have an equal chance of running a good race and getting to the finish line. In fact, in big races like this one or the Boston Marathon, they give you a little chip that you can put on your shoe so that if you do start way back from the start line because there are so many people in front of you, they don't start counting your time until you actually cross the start line. That way it's fair for everybody. But life isn't like that.
Okay, that's not fair for everybody. I'm sorry, if I start a half a mile back, I have to run an extra half a mile. Right? You could walk it. Oh, yeah, I could walk that extra half a mile. Okay, that's still energy I have to expend on the marathon. Okay? So that's not fair for everybody.
If you don't start at the front of the pack, you don't get a computer chip that levels the playing field. There are so many ways that luck creates advantages and disadvantages from the day we are born. If you aren't born in Canada or another Western country, then you start farther back.
In many cases, much farther back than that shift in the arrow indicated.
If you're a visible minority, you start farther back.
Okay, I'm going to need a citation on that one because, I'm a white guy and I got to say that my life has not been easy.
If your parents are poor, you start farther back.
But I thought that life was a journey, not a destination. So my poor parents are holding me back from what? Living a good life? Potentially, if you're really destitute, yeah. But if you can afford, the basics of life in the United States or Canada, you're doing nearly as good as even the richest people, because we all have access to similar type things like clean running water, electricity, things of that nature. So not sure what he's getting at there. Actually, I am sure what he's getting at. He's getting at this idea that luck is all that we need.
If you have a physical disability or you develop a mental illness, then you start farther back.
Okay, you need to work on your semantics, because if you develop a physical disability, it's implied that you've already started the race before you develop that. Sorry, he said mental disability. Mental illness, I think, is what he actually said, right? Yeah, you've already started the race, the way he said that. And then you get a mental illness, and it puts you farther back, is what you mean to say. All right?
And in so many places in the world, if you're a girl, you start farther back.
So how are you, as a Canadian in a country where women are not persecuted, going to solve that problem?
And again, there's no computer chip that evens everything out. You carry that disadvantage for your entire life. Even right here in Canada, there are so many ways that you can be born into advantage or disadvantage. Right here in Ottawa, 1 in 4 children start grade 1 without the basic tools that they need to be successful. Only 43% of people with disabilities participate in the workforce.
So what, do you just plan on making up some sort of bogus job for everybody who has a disability? Right? So some random menial task for everybody to do that still has a brain that functions. What about people who are quadriplegics? I mean, literally cannot move anything below the neck. What are they supposed to just read for other people? Is that what they're going to do? I don't understand where you think these jobs are going to come from. Jobs come from people purchasing goods and services. That's where jobs come from. So if there's no reason to purchase a good or service that is filled by a person who is severely handicapped, then there's no reason for that job.
More than half of the Indigenous children in our community live in poverty. And women, as you know, typically make 26% less than men.
Yes. Women make 26% less than men. Women earn 26% less than men. This wage gap myth has been debunked 10 billion times on the internet. The main factor in the wage gap is choices. Women work in jobs that pay less. Women work fewer hours than men. It's their choice to work those types of jobs. It's their choice to work fewer hours. That's not inequality. That is simply a different lifestyle. I don't make as much as famous actors do. I chose not to go down that route. I don't make as much as, say, successful surgeons, which it's probably not that difficult to be successful as a surgeon, right? I didn't go that route. I don't make the amount of money to reflect working a 100-hour week, because I don't work a 100-hour week. Okay? That's what the wage gap comes down to mostly. There's other factors too, but that's mostly it. If you don't believe me, just go onto YouTube and look at the wage gap. You'll get a billion videos on how the wage gap is bogus.
Now, there are dozens and dozens of data points that I could share with you that would show that the odds of doing well aren't the same for everyone. Now, when the winner of the race comes from the front of the pack, that person can say, I trained hard, I worked hard for this, I ran well, and that would be true. But that person would have a huge advantage over somebody starting at the back of the pack. In everyday life, that advantage often plays a much greater role than we think it does, and we pay very little attention to it. Now, every once in a while, the winner will come from the back of the pack. Somebody in the back of the pack will have an amazing race against all odds. We love those stories. They inspire us. But in a way, they also mislead us into thinking that that means the race is fair. when it's not. Those are the exceptions, not the rule.
Nothing in life is fair because of biology. Okay? Why can't people understand this? Yes, I want things to be fair too. I want people to start on a level playing field. But you just can't. I'm not 6 feet tall. I'm going to have a harder time making it in most sports because of my height, right? Shorter than the majority of basketball players, shorter than the majority, in fact, all football players, shorter than the majority of baseball players, I'm sure. I don't know the demographics on all of these sports, but these guys in the NFL that I have actually seen some of them who are 6'6" and weigh 300 pounds, there's no way I could play against those guys, right? That's just the reality that I live in. And those men get paid a heck of a lot more money than I do. And it's just because of their size and ability to grab a little ball and run. That's really it. Okay? Nothing is fair, and it's largely because of biology. Okay?
The fact is, thousands and thousands of people who start life at the back of the pack never even have a chance. We put way too much emphasis on hard work, and we fail to recognize the role of the ovarian lottery that puts so many people, including me, at the front of the pack.
Only when you're talking about the world as a whole, Canada, the United States, Australia, Japan, all of those countries have put a lot of effort into making their countries comfortable for the citizens and residents that live there, right? Part of that that's important is they put a lot of work into that. You were lucky enough to be born there, but there was a lot of work that went into making these countries safe and prosperous.
In life, in so many ways, you can't win unless you start with a lot of luck. Now, 2 years ago, in northern Alberta, the wildfires struck, and Canadians rose to the occasion, donating millions of dollars to the relief effort. We are very good at recognizing the role that fortune plays in these circumstances. We can relate to these circumstances, and so we respond. It's the same whenever some other crisis arises on social media or in our personal lives. Somebody is the victim of a natural disaster, someone loses their job or is diagnosed with cancer or another devastating illness. We respond in those occasions because we can relate to it, and we're very good at that, and that's great. But we aren't necessarily so good at responding to the persistent problems in our society that keep so many people at the back of the pack. You know, I work in the news business. It's very easy to get people's attention over a sudden and immediate crisis. It's a lot harder to mobilize them over persistent problems in society, things like poverty, racism, and inequality. We all live in bubbles. It's very easy to fall into the trap of first world problems. Let me give you just one example of that. 3 weeks ago, I was preparing for this talk, and I was really struggling with what I was going to say. I was putting a lot of time into the speech that I was going to give today. Don't tell my bosses this, but I probably spent more time on this 15-minute talk than I do on a month's worth of talk shows, okay?
And this explains why I've never heard of you, because this talk is not good. And if you put so much effort into this and it's terrible, and you put even less effort into your day job, yeah, I'm guessing that your show is not good. Yeah, must be that white male privilege.
And I actually wrote an email to my wife, my wonderful patient wife who has indulged my marathon running and has heard me deliver this speech about 10 times now.
You wrote an email to your wife? What about the phone? At the very least, you would think the phone, how about you go up to her and talk to her? Do you live near her, maybe? I mean, she is your wife. What the hell, man?
And in that email, I wrote that this TEDx experience was sucking the life out of me. So I was complaining about having to give a TEDx talk about how lucky I am. So why is it so important that we redesign our thinking and recognize the role of luck in our lives? First of all, it changes our perspective. When you see the world through the lens of merit, it makes us possessive and protective. If I earned it, I should get to keep it. It makes us think in terms of scarcity rather than abundance. It makes us talk about building walls to keep other people out.
No. Luck, believing in luck will make you do those things. Okay? Luck is this amorphous thing. Sometimes it means good fortune, sometimes it means chance. Sometimes it's this magical ability that you call upon to make things go your way. The reason to build a wall is not to keep people from taking what has been earned by other people. I mean, I'm sure this guy would not want me to come live in his house. I bet he has a nicer house than I do because he is a public personality, a famous public personality in Canada, at least somewhat famous. So I bet he has a nicer house than I do. So why don't I go live with him and he can buy me food and I can live there in his nice house? I bet he would not want that at all. Right? Some stranger invading his life, changing his life, forcing him to do things a different way because he's lucky or he has a better position in life than that stranger. All right? This guy is like so social justice warrior that it scares me.
When you see the world in terms of luck, through the lens of luck, it makes us humble, kind, generous. It makes us want to share our good fortune, to spread it around.
Why and how? Explain this to me. You don't explain this. You just believe this. The way that I look at it is like this. If I'm lucky and I have a position, I don't want to let other people come into my life to threaten that position because I got it by happenstance. And anything can come in and upset that, and then I'll be out of that position. Right? If I know that I went through a ton of work to get that position, I've secured that position by being an expert in that area, I'm more likely to let people in and go, yeah, you're not a threat to me because I already have this position secured. It's already good. So I don't know where he's getting this notion from. He doesn't cite anything, so I can't look into it any farther.
It makes us think about opening doors to other people. The other reason is that it's long overdue. With all the ingenuity, with all the genius, the intelligence we have in our time, the innovation, it still strikes me as amazing that we have not fixed the imbalances and inequities in our world that arise almost entirely out of where you were born, who your parents are, the color of your skin, and your gender. Why, for example, in a community like Ottawa, I've never been able to figure this out, why do we still need, in a city as prosperous as ours, food banks and homeless shelters?
Probably has to do with what Canada does with her money. So this is international aid that Canada gives to other countries, apparently. Look at this. We got $110 million going to Nigeria. 114 million going to South Sudan, 122 million going to Syria, 125 million to Tanzania. Mali gets 125 million, 126 million goes to Haiti, 157 million to Jordan, 192 million to Ethiopia, 223 million to America Ass. I don't know what America Ass is. Afghanistan gets 232 million. Africa in general, just Africa, just the whole continent of Africa, even though there's African countries listed down here, they get 378 million. The whole continent of Asia, They get 436 million. That money needs to go to your citizens. That's You need to take care of your own before you take care of the rest of the world. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. If you got people starving in your streets and you're giving money to foreigners, that's a problem. Same is true of the United States. Same is true of Western Europe, any country, Western European countries, any country. If you got people in your streets who are struggling to survive, you need to give that money to them first so that they get their lives together and then worry about the rest of the world. It's ridiculous. No, I'm not going to go through the rest of this. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can watch it for yourself. But he just continues to talk about eliminating luck and how hard work is not the answer, and running the Boston Marathon and starting at the front of the pack, blah blah blah. He can't have it both ways. He wants to work hard to eliminate the differences in people so that we all start on a level playing field. But that's hard work to do that. So he's talking about things being luck is so important, but yet we got to work hard. But yet hard work doesn't get you anywhere. So it's all about luck. Is it all about luck, or is it not all about luck? Please tell me. This guy is insane. His name is Mark Sutcliffe. So you can look into him more if you want to. I don't know exactly what he's doing. He looks like he is, trying to make change in Canada, in Ottawa. Great. Good. I hope it's for the best. I hope you start to eliminate poverty. But the way he talks about this, it sounds like he wants to take everybody from the beginning of life and then give them everything that they need to succeed at an equal level as adults. You can't do that. You're talking about social engineering. You're talking about communism. I already did a video on communism and why it's not a good idea. And we've seen what communism does in the world. If communism worked, I would jump all over it. Because I'm all about equality. The thing is, there's this thing called biology, which we already mentioned in this video, that's not even. Biology is not even. A big problem in communism is farming. If you can get high yields and make more money off those higher yields, that's uneven, and then the government has to step in and take that food away from you. You're not allowed to have that much product. You can't sell that much product. You're making too much money. And it could just be because, by the luck of whatever, you got better soil than the guy next to you. So yeah, luck is a huge factor. People have gone from riches to rags and from rags to riches because of luck. How many people win the lottery? Luck is definitely a factor. You're never going to eliminate it. But you know what? What's the most important factor, which is even more important, is hard work. You're telling me that all the work that I put in over the years to get to where I am right now, that the struggle that I had, that the years of poverty, of living paycheck to paycheck, of having to rent a room with some crap hole, in some crap hole, with some asshole, all those years, nope, it was all luck. Where I'm right now, it's all luck. I could have just sat on the couch, watched TV, and I would have ended up in the same spot, or even a better spot. Maybe that's true. But the odds are that hard work has gotten me to where I am now. In fact, I use my degree on a daily basis. I use my education to make this video. I didn't need to get an education to make this video. There's plenty of people who can do it without a formal education in filmmaking. But I happen to have that formal education, so I use it to make this video, for example. So, yeah, this guy is very much wrong. Hard work is so important. Hard work is going to take you from being poor to being rich. Hard work is going to take you from being poor to being middle class. Right? Hard work is going to keep you from being poor. And you can look at, there's so many examples of people who've made it because of luck, and there's so many examples of people who made it because they work hard. Right? I don't know too many people, I haven't met too many people who've just sat around, done nothing, and been okay. Pretty much everybody I've known, everybody I've come across in my whole life has had to work at getting what they want out of life. Especially when it comes to financial things. When it comes to money, people have to work for it. You have to earn your money somehow. Sitting around isn't going to do it for you. So, this has been The Ordeal. Thanks for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment about anything that you want to hear in the future, or direct me to any videos you'd like me to review. And have a good day.